All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're excited to see you again, and happy Cinco de Mayo. I have the pleasure of introducing you to Alycia Angle. And so Alycia talks about cognitive energizers. So for those of you who know me well, I love all things brain health, brain science, and brain, getting things going up there and keeping things alive. And Alycia has done a lot of work in that area, and she's written something. Angle Up is from Alycia Angle, and she's the founder of a podcast called 2020 Perspective, and she's just a whiz in all things talent development. And she's currently working with Texas Instruments and has a lot of things going on the side. So her side hustle is probably keeping her as busy as her main hustle. And to top it all off, she's having a baby in June. So Alycia, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. So take it away. Yes. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Today, I'm really excited to share one of my favorite topics with everyone about cognitive flexibility. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Excellent. So our topic for today is the pursuit of better, using cognitive flexibility to create opportunities. Thank you, Christy, for introducing. This is a little bit about me. I won't get into the details, but I do want to share one of my favorite things to do is cognitive energizers, and they go hand in hand with cognitive flexibility. This is a term that I made up, so if you Google it, you probably won't find it, but essentially cognitive energizers are activities that we do to briefly engage audiences like yourself, participants of events, at workshops, at virtual conferences, at in-person conferences. And I like to think about them as non-cheesy icebreakers. If you've ever been in a session where someone asks you to maybe share a fun fact about yourself, and everyone's thinking about how do I come up with something interesting about myself, and you're not really listening to the person next to you. It's not really a way to connect with people. But cognitive energizers are connected to the theme or the objective of the event or the session in a way to help elicit learning and whatever the point is of that topic or that speaker that's sharing with you. So today I have a series of cognitive energizers for us to experiment with. To better understand cognitive flexibility. So it does mean that there will be interaction. I will ask, there's a big group of you, so I will ask to share in the chat or just unmute yourself. I have a feeling just from us getting started and gathering today that I don't have many shy people here. So I'm just going to ask you to share out loud, and this is meant to be a session for you, and I'm here kind of guiding you along the way. Okay, so we will start with a cognitive energizer called "Oh Good," and it's really a fun way for us to kick off Cinco de Mayo. So, as you know, St. Patrick's Day was just a couple weeks ago, and it really got me thinking about leprechauns on their search for a pot of gold. And in a way, we're all kind of on our journey to find our own pot of gold. And our pot of gold looks a little bit different. For some, it truly might mean a pot of gold. For some, it might be more flexibility in their schedule, or more time with family, or saving up for retirement to buy, that yacht that you want to cruise around on. But it all looks a little bit different. And so I want to practice an activity with you called "Oh Good," and it's a way to get us into a mindset of going for that pot of gold, even when life throws you good, bad, and unexpected gifts along the way. So this is how it works. I am going to share some various gifts with you verbally. I'll just say them out loud. And in no particular order, as a group, you can type in the chat or you can just say out loud. I want you to receive the gift and say, "Oh, good," and share something positive or why that gift is useful. So the rule is you have to say, "Oh, good," and then you share something positive about the gift. Again, you can type in the chat, you can say it out loud, This is meant to be rapid fire, so share as many compliments or goods as you can until you receive the next gift. So for example, if I say, here is a reusable water bottle, then you say, oh, good. And oh, good. And you say, oh, I just ran out of water. So now I can go fill up my water bottle. Okay. Any questions? Okay, cool. First gift, opening my chat so I can see. A cup of coffee.
Oh, good.
Good.
Oh, good. Now I'll have my rest
Open
for the
diet
day.
for a cup.
Oh, good. I have a headache.
Oh, good. Great way to start the day.
Perfect. Okay, next gift is a plastic garbage bag.
Oh, good. Now I
Good.
can put all of the clothing I want to donate to the local charity in my neighborhood.
Oh, good. I can keep my kitchen clean.
Oh, good. Time to tackle the garage.
Oh,
Love
good.
it.
I'm gonna have to deal with my ex-boss.
Also, okay, next gift is wrinkle cream.
Ooh. Oh, good.
good.
I get to stay youthful looking.
Oh, good. Now I can take off 10 years of my life.
Oh, good. I want to look younger.
Okay, next gift, a dirty diaper.
Oh,
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 good.
good.
I'm
It
a
sounds like
And a
Brady
new
grandpa.
children.
life entering the world.
Oh,
Put 'em in
good.
a garbage bag.
I'm glad we got it out of the house.
Oh, good. It
then
means
the
he's
baby will
eating.
Stop crying.
Eating, crying. There are lots in the chats. Okay,
No, I love
next
the one
is
about
a
life.
next gift is a wool sweater with your face on it.
Oh, good. I have a designer sweater.
Let's go into Goodwill.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's going to be donated.
Oh, good. My wife has dart practice.
An ugly Christmas sweater. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good.
ready
Good.
for
No one
crazy
will steal
sweater
this from
day.
me.
Okay, next gift is a dead car battery.
A gift is a dead car battery. Oh my gosh.
Oh, good. I don't
Gotta
have
hit
to go to
AAA.
work.
Or you know what? Now we got something to reuse because I'm into the battery reuse area and looking to take into its composite parts and make may turn it into a newer one.
You'd be
Oh,
walking
good.
by
I work
that.
from home anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, good. We'll have a safe battery now.
Yeah, there you go.
New
Love it.
paperweight. Oh, good. A new paperweight.
Exactly. Don't need to go back to the office. It'll be like downtown San Francisco. There you go. Then it'll help
Love
them make them digitize.
Oh, good. No traffic today.
Yep, there you go.
Awesome. All right, that was your last gift. Great work. I think everyone got the purpose of that. So tell me, what were your thoughts about that activity as you were either listening to others or as you were sharing your goods?
That you turn something that could be negative into
Right.
a positive. It's all about how
Exactly.
you think about the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Dexterity and able to turn on a pivot, turn on a dime, kind of almost just like that, as we had to do 3 years ago. You know?
Yeah.
Recognizing your own mindset
Mhm.
based on the answers that you give.
Yep. Yep. I like Bill put in the chat reframing. And many of you already said this is finding the positive, finding the good. Life is full of surprises, good, bad, unexpected, i.e. a pandemic that occurred that I don't think many of us didn't see that coming or expected it to change our world like it did, but it has, and we've all had to adjust. And so as we're in pursuit of our gold, our pot of gold, our goals that we have, life is going to throw us unexpected gifts all along the way. It's very easy to be grateful for the positive stuff, the good things that come into our life, but it takes a little bit more effort to reframe what messages or what can we take out from those maybe not so positive things that come into our life, those gifts that are unexpected or maybe not really wanted, but it's really up to us, like someone said, about using your mindset to reframe and shift it into something that can help us not meet that unexpected gift with resistance. So I hope you enjoyed that opening cognitive energizer. And we're going to get into a little bit more of how we reframe and how we reset our mindset. So success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. I found this powerful quote in a fortune cookie. It's on my refrigerator. And later I found out that it is a quote from Dale Carnegie. And I love the thought of this because what if everything that came into our life we viewed as an opportunity? The good, the bad, the ugly, then everything would be pretty okay. The bad stuff wouldn't seem so bad, right? When we use cognitive flexibility as a way to get away from one way of thinking and into another way of thinking, we can take any situation at hand and turn it into an opportunity for ourselves. And when we pair it with positive psychology, that's when transformation occurs in our life. There's a company called TRX. It's a fitness company. You may be familiar with it. It's the straps that hang from, a pillar or a ceiling, and you use it for resistance training. And their company motto is the pursuit of better. And I really love that. Like our talk today is because we might not be the best and we might not be the worst, but we can always be better than we are today. And that takes intentional action on our part and a lot of cognitive flexibility in order to shift whenever life is throwing us these unexpected gifts along the way. So let's talk a little bit more about what cognitive flexibility is. So the definition is the ability to switch our thinking between multiple concepts or perspectives. It's the capacity to adapt to new situations, to learn from experience, those unexpected things, those missteps, those failures, and to make decisions that are relevant to current context. So it really requires us to be in the present and in the moment and take into account the current environment, the current situation, in order to quickly adapt and change directions in order to keep moving and keep progressing toward our goals or toward whatever it is that we're striving for. So having cognitive flexibility could really help us approach our problems with creativity, with innovation. And I like to think of the Groundhog Day effect, where we keep trying the same old thing, or we put Band-Aids on the same situation, the same issue, and it keeps popping up. Cognitive flexibility allows us to get out of our regular way of thinking and to address those challenges from a completely new angle in order to solve it, maybe differently than we have before, and again, move forward. So we're continuously on that pursuit of better. So there are lots of advantages. I won't read all these to you, but especially in the workplace, cognitive flexibility can allow us to be more collaborative, to be more communicative with people that have diverse ideas or come from diverse backgrounds. And ultimately, it helps us become more effective problem solvers because we're constantly looking at the situation from different angles and with a new lens. So I want you to just take a look at this list of advantages of building and growing cognitive flexibility, and maybe pick out one that really interests you, or maybe one that you're currently working on. I just want you to maybe write it down or think about where you want to improve. You can share in the chat if you want, or you can just simply take note of it, because I'm curious to see later, maybe in a couple of weeks, how cognitive flexibility is helping improve this area of your life. For me, practice more patience with problems is my number one area of opportunity. I like to get in there and knock things off my to-do list and keep moving, but cognitive flexibility really requires us to pause and think differently in order to solve that challenge differently. Yeah, avoiding rumination, managing uncertainty. Yes, great. Awesome. Okay. So I want you to take a look at this slide and tell me, what do you see? You can type in the chat or you can share out loud. What do you see here? A fence, lots of boxes, a fence, gray squares, white grid, eye chart, jail, a cage. Okay, wow, we're really creative this morning. Say that again.
Boxes, frames, frames like from film frames.
Yes, yes. Lots of good stuff. Does anyone see the gray dots at the intersection of the white grid? Okay. Yes, lots of people do. Great. Nothing is wrong with your eyesight. If you see the gray dots, that is perfectly normal. And we see these gray dots, even though they're not really there. It's because of the way, and I am not an eye doctor, but it's the way that the light, the contrast of the black and white, it adjusts in our eyes, and we see these gray spots in between the intersections when we're trying to move from the dark to the light. So the reason that we see these, and it works very similarly to our unconscious bias. We all have biases that are made up from our experiences, from our educational background, the way that we were raised, and we can't really unsee the biases that we have. We can simply be aware of them. And just like these gray dots, we see them. We know now that they're not really there, but we can't really unsee them. You might be even noticing them more now that I've mentioned it. And just like our biases, they're part of who we are, and we have to be aware that they're going to pop up, and that can prevent us from implementing and increasing our cognitive flexibility. Because we come with experiences, we come to the table with knowledge, we come with history and context. And so that can sometimes prohibit us from thinking differently than the way that we're naturally used to thinking. So some other challenges with building and using cognitive flexibility are confirmation bias. This is when we're searching for information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs, things that we already think or know to be true. All or nothing thinking. This is when we think of things in extremes, good or bad, yes or no, black or white. We also think in absolutes, like this always happens to me, or I never get selected for the promotion. When we think in absolutes, that can prohibit us from thinking of that middle ground, which is the area of opportunity, that gray area where we can really play in and we can open ourselves up to more opportunities. And then finally, thought action fusion. This is when we think about something, maybe an action that's negative or bad, is just as bad as actually doing the action. So for example, if I think I'm going to steal from the grocery store, it's just as bad as actually stealing from the grocery store. And what that does is it limits our free-flowing thinking and our creativity. So it's putting thoughts and actions together and not being able to really pull them apart. So, okay, we've talked about the advantages, we've talked about the challenges. So let's talk about, how do we increase cognitive flexibility? So to increase cognitive flexibility, we really have to put ourselves in a position where we see new perspectives, we learn new skills, and we're exposing ourselves to different things that we maybe have never exposed ourselves to. So it can be a little uncomfortable because we're getting out of our comfort zone, but that's where the growth happens. And so for the rest of our time together this morning, I want to share with you 3 different ways to increase cognitive flexibility. And we'll talk about how to do that just briefly, because we could talk all day. I know Christy said this is one of her favorite topics, and there's a lot that goes into it. But I'm going to touch on how can you increase cognitive flexibility, and then we'll really highlight one way or one tool using a cognitive energizer. Okay, so the first is through radical failure. When I first graduated from college and got my professional career opportunity, the first one out of the gate, I was fired. And this was a huge blow to my confidence because I had been really successful in school and socially up until that point. And I didn't know, is it the work that I was miserable with? Was it the work context? Was it the environment? Was it the fact that my boss told me he was going to strangle me after I'd been there for just a few weeks? I was very unsure of myself and my capability, and it really took a big blow to my ego. So I decided to stay for as long as I could, and I stayed for a little bit over a year. And I saved up all my money and I bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. I was like, get me so far away from the world as I know it, because I'm going to fail at life. I'm not doing this well. And about 2 weeks before I resigned, my boss beat me to the punch and he let me go. Even though it was my plan, I was still pretty hurt and devastated, thinking I'm never going to be successful in the professional world. And so I spent about a year having what I call my Eat, Pray, Love year. And I taught English and I was communicating and working and playing with people from all over the world. And I found that I could be successful when I don't know the language, when I don't have any friends or a support system. And I made it my personal and professional mission to help people never feel as miserable as I did in the workplace. And that's how I got into the work that I do today, which I love, but it never would have occurred if I hadn't had that massive failure during my first job. So how do you fail successfully? Well, it means you have to fail small and fail often. There's a couple ways to do it. First is having the courage to allow yourself to fail. If you've ever heard of the design thinking method, this is a way to iterate and basically put yourself in a position where you're going to fail in order to get information to put toward another iteration of your product or service, and then go back at it and try it again. So it's really getting more reps in. The more reps that we can get in, the more likely we are to get to success. But it takes that courage to allow yourself to fail. The second how is humility. People rarely have both the courage and the humility to fail. So it's admitting not only to others that, yeah, I messed up and this is how, and this is what I learned from it, but also to admit that failure to yourself. Because I feel like, we have a group of high achievers. And so it's really hard to say, I messed up and this is how I'm going to do it differently next time. And then the third is to reframe, to think about your failure from a different angle. So instead of saying to yourself, why is this happening to me? For example, you reframe that to say, how is this happening for me? How is this failure? How is this misstep happening for me? And really think of maybe 3 reasons, come up with 10 reasons why this could work for you. Very similar to our oh good exercise, when we get away from a dirty diaper or a dead car battery, and we think about how is this happening for me? What is the benefit of this? What should I be learning from this? It automatically helps us get out of that resistant mindset and into a more open mindset where we're getting away from our limiting beliefs. Any questions or thoughts around radical failure?
Great point. And it's interesting because I'm in another search group like this, and one of the leads of the group, where we're all kind of leads because we're all a bunch of us, and including myself, are in a committee, is dealing with a whole lot of other stuff beyond. He works, but he's kind of out of the workforce, and he just does it to assist others. And he's dealing with a whole lot of stuff on his plate with one of his parents and his wife's parents, and it's really dragging him down. It's affecting the whole group.
Yeah.
And so I was reminding him of a lot of what you're talking about to him, which because we have speakers that come in, and he asked me to find speakers, and I found this speaker that the author Jeff Keller wrote the book Attitude is Everything. Change your attitude, change your life. And I sent him a copy with that thing. He goes, that's so lousy. Because he saw a message right at him. I could be a great speaker.
It takes effort. It takes effort to change the attitude, right?
Right. He
not
said,
easy.
he wanted to throw me off the committee, and there's other lead says calm them down and said, no, let's just, anyway.
That's great. Thank you so much for
You're
sharing
welcome.
that. Yeah, it's really all about mindset, and the reframe, just like "Oh, good," is a way for us to pause and think about the situation differently. So let's move to our second point, which is radical self-reflection. Quick story. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I moved here right before the pandemic. And when I first moved here, I was really struggling. I had a new job. I moved here for a new opportunity. My boss was in China, and most of my colleagues were based in Asia. And I'm in a new industry, a new company, a new town, and I'm asking questions and I'm not really getting answers, or I'm getting them, 13 hours later. So it was really hard for me, and not having a support system with friends or family, yet. And plus, on top of it, I'm finding myself in this extra long commute, this traffic that I had not experienced. If anyone's been to Dallas, you might know what the traffic is like. And so I talked with my coach about it. And what we did is created what I call the stop doing list. I had my to-do list of all of these lofty goals and things that I wanted to accomplish. And every week that would pass, I would feel guilty about not making any movement on any of these goals. And these are things like write a book, start a podcast. You can't just do it over the weekend. It takes a little bit of time and planning. And so what I did is I put all of those on my stop doing list. And with that newfound time during my commute, I created the 30-day question challenge. And I asked my accountability buddy to send me one question every morning for 30 days. And on my way to work, I just simply had my phone out. I was paying attention. I just was holding it like this and recording my responses to each question. And I didn't have time to look at the question before. I was just saying what was on my mind, and I would hear myself or play it back and listen for patterns, words, tone, and pick up on certain things that I probably wouldn't have thought of when I'm just sitting thinking with my thoughts. And so what I learned was radical self-reflection is not only self-reflecting, it's acting on that self-reflection. And so it's putting what you've learned or what you've reflected on into action to propel you forward. So how can you do this? A couple different ways. One, through multidimensional thinking. This is when we come to solution by thinking of a challenge from different angles, from different perspectives. We actively put ourselves in different shoes to think about the situation differently. Second is curiosity about the self. When we promote self-curiosity, we ask ourselves these questions and we really honestly answer them with full transparency with ourselves. We can come to new insights that ultimately can help us be better humans and build more authentic connections with others. And then third is stepping into the growth zone. So we have the comfort zone, which we're all very familiar with. Then we have the fear zone, which is very uncomfortable. The learning zone, which means we're still uncomfortable and we're putting in effort. And then we get to the growth zone. And this is where we reach self-actualization. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that top part of the pyramid. This is when we're thriving and we're using the knowledge and the information that we've learned, and we're actually putting it into action to reach our goals and to be the best version of ourselves. So I want to take a minute and do a cognitive energizer with multi-dimensional thinking, and it's called like this, like that. So has anyone ever heard of the term synectics before? Synectics, maybe, maybe not. Well, synectics is a way.
How do you spell it?
SYNECTICT. CS, excuse me. Not the best speller. Synectics. Thank you, Bill. So essentially, this is a way to bring different things, unlike things together in a unified connection. So I want you let's try an example. Think of a common pair that goes together. Any common pair that goes together. You can just shout it out or put it in the chat.
Cream and coffee.
Perfect. Cream and coffee. Sun and moon.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Peanut butter and jelly. My
Bread
favorite.
and butter.
Bread and butter.
Lips-
Strawberries and cream.
Lips
dogs
and
and
tea.
mustard.
Hot dogs and mustard.
Lips
Excellent.
and teeth, as I said, some governments say, we're as close as lips and teeth.
Okay, great.
I don't know, anyway.
Okay, okay, perfect. So that is we're
Tall
putting
and short.
tall and short. Perfect. We're putting unlike things together. Now, I want you to think of someone in your life that you know really well. It could be a significant other, a child, a parent, a colleague, someone that you just know very well in your life. Okay, when you think of that person, I want you to think about how is this person like milk and cookies?
Calm and loving. Or
Calm and loving, perfect. What else? I don't know who this person is, so
Very
you can say
tender.
anything about them and how they're like milk and cookies.
Very tender and sweet, I guess, yeah.
Tender and sweet,
Go well
reliably
together.
consistent. Say that again.
Go well together.
Go well together.
Comforting.
Clear-headed.
Comforting, refreshing.
Totally natural.
Say that again.
Totally natural.
Totally natural. Comfort. Okay, perfect. So you have the hang of it. You probably didn't wake up this morning and think, how am I going to compare this person that I know really well to milk and cookies? And you just did it. Okay. So let's go a little bit deeper and try it with another way. So I want you to think about your favorite activity or a hobby that you love. Okay. It could be pickleball. It could be writing. It could be maybe working on cars, a favorite activity or hobby. Now I want you to think about where you are in your life right now in terms of your career. Okay. Now, how is your career, where you are in your career right now, like your favorite hobby? And I'm going to ask someone or multiple people to share because I really want, this takes a little bit more effort than the milk and cookies, but I want you to really be thoughtful about how does this go together? Anyone willing to share?
It's comfortable.
I will.
Go ahead.
Yoga is my hobby, and mindfulness and being present is what helps me in my career as a coach.
Excellent. Great example. Someone said comfortable. I want to go back to that. Can you share with that? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, so my hobby or my favorite activity is to go swimming. And so when I'm swimming, I feel really good. I get the endorphins. And right now in my career, I'm very comfortable where I'm at in terms of my career. I've got a great job, great boss, really like work-life balance. And so it's very comfortable for me. So my situation at my work being very comfortable. I love what I'm doing. It's very comfortable. It's like when I'm swimming. I feel really good about that.
Okay, excellent. You feel really good about it. Something you enjoy. You're in the flow. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone
So
else?
So I was going to say,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go.
So my hobby is I play guitar, and as I've told this group many times, I have 15 guitars because I thought 16 would be too many. And much like my inconsistency in play is my inconsistency in my career, right? Sometimes every note is just perfect, and other times I just can't do it. And my career takes that same path. However, the fortuitiveness to continue playing and continue working at my career is kind of where that nexus is for me. right? So I don't have to be perfect. I just have to continue I love that quote about the pursuit of better, right? I just have to try to be better tomorrow than I was today.
Right.
And I take that message in my career.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. They really, I mean, this can be a little vulnerable. So I appreciate you sharing. And someone else was going to mention something too.
Yes, it's Carol.
Carol.
I was going to mention my former career before I am in the reinvention of coming up with a career, but it was sales, and I think trust and knowledge really went together well. Friendships, acquaintances, but building the trust with your client and having the knowledge so that you can prove yourself to your clients so they can trust you.
Excellent. Yeah, that's huge. That is absolutely, thank you. Excellent. Thank you all for sharing. And I know many of you are also thinking too, so I want you to continue to think, but I'm curious to hear from you. How is this exercise? Is it difficult or easy to pair something that you love with where you are with your career right now, whether it's in a positive place or maybe you're wanting to be on that pursuit of better? Help me understand, is it easy to do or is it challenging?
For me, it's very easy to do. I have had the honor to work with a nonprofit that was working in the creative arts industry. So that helped me, and I was on their board. So that really immersed me around people that had that creative mindset. So back to your earlier question, tying it into this, it's very easy for me to do because one of my hobbies is to take things that find things that are something that I want to create something else with that. Right. So I don't use it for the purpose it was originally intended, in other words. So I'm constantly stretching my mind and creating those new neural pathways to approach things differently. And in my current situation, I'm able to do that. This is a position I just landed end of February. So it's a position that I would have never looked for. I would have never looked for the title. I would have never potentially looked for the company or known about the company. And the position itself is, it's fun, it's different, it's a challenge, but it's easy too, for me because of how I approach things.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's excellent. It's a totally new way of getting yourself, like you said, connecting those neural pathways into a different space than you have ever really put yourself in before. Excellent. Was someone else going to share?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of correlation. I do triathlon, and you can't, just like in your job, you can't just focus on one area. You have to focus on the many different disciplines. And you can't get comfortable because so many different things can happen to you in a race. You can get a flat tire or something, or the weather comes, all these different things that happen. So I think you learn and can apply things from your hobby or things that you learn in your work, vice versa. And it sort of keeps you on your toes. You have to constantly be looking ahead. And when I find that you get comfortable, that's when sort of bad things happen in a sense, and you've got to constantly be looking ahead and being prepared. And sometimes you can't see some things. So you just have to be able to get used to dealing with uncomfortable situations and how to get around them. And as you say, reframe it, look at it in a positive way, learn from it, and move forward.
Yes, well said. I like to use one of Brene Brown's terms is get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like let's just be okay with being a little uncomfortable, because that is where we grow. That is where we progress. And if we stay in the Groundhog Day zone where we're just kind of doing the same old every single day, then that's when we lose our edge. We don't stay on our toes, to your point. And so thinking and really, again, intentionally thinking, especially when we're stuck, how does this go with this? How can this be like this? For example, I use this activity sometimes in strategy meetings when the group gets stuck, and I'll ask someone, like, let's say we're doing a budget, like we're in a budget meeting, which that's probably my least favorite thing to do. And I'm saying, okay, we're stuck. We haven't moved forward. Let's think about what we're doing this weekend. Who's doing something this weekend? And maybe someone, let's say they're playing pickleball with their family. Okay, let's talk about how is pickleball like achieving whatever the goal is with this budget meeting. And it just kind of refreshes you. So I just encourage you to use this activity, even just to yourself, when you're feeling stuck, when you're feeling stagnant, or maybe you've run out of ideas and you need a creative burst. So using multidimensional thinking really can help us get through that opportunity, to get through to what's holding us back to get to the opportunity.
And I have an example of quite the opposite, and many of us may have experienced a friend or colleague or someone that has done this. And years ago in the late 80s, I was in the computer. Many of you know that I was in the computer space for a long time and still am, or technology space. And so one of my colleagues at a retail store in the late 80s, he and I would go to lunch a lot. We became a lot of, really good friends. His girlfriend, my husband, another couple, we'd all go out, do things. But every single time he had all the words coming out of his mouth were negative. It was always the glass was half empty. And when I announced that I was moving from Ohio to California, he said, Tress, he would call me Tress, I'm taking you to lunch every single day for the next 2 months before you leave. So because we were all going to miss each other. So we would walk, and we'd walk to the restaurant, and he would pound his hand, and it was all negative. And I don't like this, and I don't like this, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, like a year later, or even sooner than that, called him from California. Tress, I'm going to put my resume together. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like this. He started before me in 1987. He's still at that same company. And every single time I talk to him, he has this glass is half empty attitude. But years ago, I sort of squelched it because there couldn't be any kind of growth on his part because he didn't want it.
Right.
He didn't want it. And I just finally faced him, head on with it and said, hey, listen, this conversation goes nowhere. And if you have other exciting things to talk to me about, more than happy to listen. But this conversation around you wanting to get your resume together and move on, because he never changed. So anyway, I don't want to go on anymore with that, but it's constant. If you have any people that are around you in that way, that's constantly like negative, that's not good either, right? Having that negativity.
It's a choice. It is a choice. It is a mindset. Tell him to call me and we can chat about this, because it really is a choice, and it takes effort, and it is more comfortable to stay where we are than it is to put in the work to be on that pursuit of better than we are right now. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to move forward to our last point to increase cognitive flexibility, which is radical vulnerability. And you probably know by now I have lots of stories. So I'm going to share one last one. At my previous job, I was living in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I was working for a large healthcare system. And I was part of a meeting with about 100 leaders, high-level leaders, and our CEO was speaking. And I thought, okay, this is my chance to ask him a question. He was doing a little Q&A, and I said, okay, I'm going to ask him 2 questions. One will be an intelligent question. And then my second question was, I wanted to ask him for tickets to a Mardi Gras ball that was happening the next night, and he's a crew member of, which, if you're familiar with Mardi Gras at all, it's kind of like royalty when you're part of a crew, and it's a big festival, and it's wonderful. And it's not like Bourbon Street, like what you may think of it as. So I said, okay, I have a split-second decision to be vulnerable in front of a room of high-level leaders, including my boss and the CEO of this company, and possibly get laughed at or told no, or I don't know, get in trouble for stepping out of my over some, boundaries. But I said, okay, I'm going to regret not asking. So I stood up, had the microphone, I asked my first question, and then I immediately rolled into my second question and asked him, and you have 2 tickets to the Mardi Gras ball this weekend. And the whole room just gasped in uproar. And I think everyone was a little caught off guard, including him. But he said, how many do you want? And let me tell you, it worked out in my favor. I'm not saying it always does, but that split-second opportunity to be vulnerable and put yourself in a situation that's very uncomfortable can open you up to opportunities that you might not otherwise know. If you stay in that safe zone where I'm just thinking about it and I want to raise my hand or I want to ask the question, and then someone else had asked it, I would have been kicking myself. I would have been telling you the same story now, and it would have been part of my failure example. But the point is, if we don't take small risks and opportunities to put ourselves in a vulnerable situation, we stay comfortable and we don't see what opportunities could be available to us. So how do we practice radical vulnerability? One, like I just mentioned, practice your risk-taking muscles. If you don't use it, you lose it. The more that we can put ourselves in small situations to be vulnerable, the easier it becomes. And the bigger risks mean the bigger rewards and opportunities. It doesn't mean that every vulnerable risk-taking opportunity will be successful, but it's just like building a muscle. The more reps you get in, the stronger you will become. The second is put together a challenge network. So the term challenge network was coined by a fellow IO psychologist, Adam Grant. And essentially this means to surround yourself with people who are going to challenge you, who you're inviting to challenge you, to give you direct feedback, radical candor, to be completely honest and open with you, to help you be better. Not to rip you to shreds. Sometimes they do, and it's hurtful, but essentially to help you see something that you might not see. It's very easy to go to, our significant other, or for me to go to my mom and say, what do you think about this situation? Can you believe this? And they'll probably agree with me. And that doesn't really help me. But if we can be around people who have different perspectives than us, maybe who have different backgrounds, they have different experiences, and they can help us see something that we can't, we can become better than we are today. And then the third way is future visioning. When we project ourselves into the future, I do this activity called 10-10-10, and it's think about this situation 10 minutes from now, 10 days from now, 10 months from now, or even longer, 10 months, 10 years, and you can keep going, and you try to project yourself to that future ideal state. And it allows you to work backwards, free of limiting beliefs. So if we say, okay, in 10 years, I want to sell my company and I want to have, $100 million in the bank or whatever, we think without boundaries. And we might not get to that, but maybe we can get close. Maybe we can get somewhere close to that goal. But if we think in the present and we limit ourselves, we can't really move forward, right? So let's do another cognitive energizer. I know we have just a few minutes left, and we'll do this really quickly to practice our risk-taking muscles. So this is a cognitive energizer called PowerPoint Karaoke. And you may have played it before. Sometimes it's called slide roulette, but I'm going to need 10 volunteers. You won't have to do anything crazy, but
okay, well, we know John Manzanares, Harriet, and Mary.
okay.
And Russ wants to do that too.
John, Harriet, Mary, who else?
And Carol, looks like Carol, maybe.
Carol? How about Bill?
Bill Laser.
Sure.
And Michael Scallon.
Carol, I'll do it.
Yep, Carol. Awesome, Carol.
Okay, I need 3 more.
Scott Calendar. All right, my Disney buddy. And
Okay,
Paul Brody.
Sure.
Paul, and one more person.
I'll do it.
can do it.
Tim Mizuo.
Tim. Okay, excellent. So how this works is you are all going to practice your risk-taking skills and be a little vulnerable with us this morning. So thank you ahead of time. So what we'll do is I will put a slide up on the screen and we'll go in order. I'll just say your name. I have them written down here. Your goal is to present whatever comes to mind. This is a little improv for about 15 seconds. And once you finished, you say, as you will see on the next slide, and I'll flip it to the next slide and I'll call your name and then the next person will do the same thing. We get to the final person, Tim. You will start by saying to sum it all up and then you'll do your 15-second or so presentation. So no one here that are volunteers have seen these slides before. Anything that you say goes, but it's all up to you, okay? Any questions?
It's just a shout out, right?
It's just a shout out.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Are you ready? So our first person is John, and our topic for our presentation is healthy habits. So John, I'll flip to the next slide and then you can present. And remember, you say, as you'll see on the next slide, and then I'll pass it to Harriet. Okay.
Okay.
Ready?
So wrestling helps you deal with adversity. And so as you see the man at the bottom there, he's dealing with a major piece of adversity, and he's going to have to think quickly to survive this. And as you see on the next slide,
Harriet.
Dogs and cats typically are not friendly towards one another. You may gaze at someone or something and think they have it all together, but you have the same within yourself. As you'll see on the next slide.
Mary.
Exercise is an excellent habit to improve your health and improve your well-being. As you see on the next slide.
Carol.
Wow, as you see on the next slide, I don't know how you could see it, but I am eating now, as you see on the next slide. Hunger and desire is something that we all have within us. It's the person that actually takes a bite into life to experience their own successes. As you can see in the next slide.
Bill.
Exercise has got to be an important component of your healthy habits lifestyle. And it's for men and for women of all ages. And as you can see on the next slide.
Michael.
Life is about taking chances. Sometimes you've got to plow through fire and change and risk and danger. And usually you're going to come out ahead. And as you will see on the next slide.
Carol. Do we have two Carols? I'll go to Scott. Scott.
And as you can see, well, healthy habits can be done in all ways, but virtually, it just depends on how you look at things and how you approach things. So even though some things don't appear to be what they are, you can virtually figure out what they will do for you. And as you can see on the next slide.
Paul.
Let's see. I guess don't be a prisoner of the present. Always be thinking ahead. Save for a rainy day. Put away a few nuts for the winter. And as you can see on the next slide.
Final slide, Tim.
My wife is very curious about what I was just talking about.
To sum it up, you have to make a decision to be transparent, to change, to make a decision that you want to change, to become a better person. And in the end, it's all about having a happy family.
Excellent. Bravo, everyone. Thank you.
Fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much for participating. I know we're at Reddit time, but that is, again, public speaking is some people's biggest fear, and you all just did that, also being completely unprepared. But this is just a small way to showcase how you can put yourself in vulnerable situations to open yourself up to opportunities and to get into that growth zone of cognitive flexibility. I have one more picture here that's funny. But just as a recap, radical failure, radical self-reflection, and radical vulnerability equals self-acceptance, authentic connection, and the ultimate goal of reaching cognitive flexibility. So I just challenge you to maybe take away one activity that we did today, one tool, and implement it and see where you are. And, you can use the 10-10-10 and see where you are in 10 days, 10 months, 10 years. So thank you again for having me.
Okay. And how do people get a hold of you, Alycia?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Alycia Angle, or hello@alyciaangle.com. Those are typically the best ways to get in touch with me, but would love to connect with all of you on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alycia. This has been really fun. I love the slide roulette, the slide karaoke. I think that was the most fun. I've never seen anything like it. Hilarious. Hilarious. And Carol, I love the polar bear taking the bite out of life, right? That's we can all stand to take a bite out of life. So thank you all. Thank you, Alycia, so much. Appreciate it. We'll send out the recording to everyone. And Alycia, are you going to make your slides available?
I'm happy to. If people
Okay.
want slides, I'm happy to do so.
Yep, go ahead and send it over to us. We'll include it with the recording and the link and all of your contact information. And looking forward to having to seeing where all the wonderful things that you're doing. And you're in the right field, I'll tell you that much. So thank you all. Have a great weekend. Happy Cinco de
You as
Mayo.
well. You as
And
well.
we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
I
you.
was
Bye,
thinking
thank
about
you.
I was thinking about sending a photo. There was something